So this is a Logistics Shakti podcast, which we do regularly. In fact, we do this podcast during these occasions of seminars. Also, regularly we do podcasts with various people, industry people. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's quite exciting and looking forward to this event and also excited about the podcast as well.
So what is your feel about this event?
Uh, See, for us, this is becoming more and more relevant to be participating in an event of this scale and this magnitude that brings together everybody in logistics, e-commerce, quick commerce, both buyers and sellers. And we are a significantly human capital based company with a workforce of 35,000 plus employees spread across in India and Middle East. And post COVID, the fastest growing industry and sector for us as Stalwart has been logistics, e-commerce, and more recently quick commerce. And this is where the growth has been. There was a time when manufacturing was peaking. There was a time when IT was and ITES was peaking. I think post COVID, the industry to look out for has been logistics and e-commerce, and that's also the reason why we're here.
See, actually, I have seen a trend where people dealing in manpower, they have segmented themselves. Somebody is dealing in security, they remain in security. Somebody who's dealing in providing manpower, somebody dealing in white collar, they have segmented themselves and they specialize in that. They
Yeah.
create a niche out of it. I see you are there in all this thing. So
Yes.
Is it to expand fast, or is it that you are? What is the
You're
idea
so
behind it?
right. 2003, when we started off, it was a pure security services company with manned guarding as our core focus. And as we traveled through the journey of expansion, we realized that our strength lies in human resource management and understanding a B2B needs of the market from a business support perspective. And we were working with stakeholders who were handling business support services, which were supporting core operations. When we looked at what is the landscape like, yes, facility management was an adjacent area where we felt we could add value because there were a lot of synergies. That's how our first diversification happened in facility management. Then it was bordering closely to other human resources that are provided, for example, in logistics, pickers, packers, forklift operators, drivers. This also became an allied area where we found synergies. So we got into staffing solutions. And very recently, we wanted to move up the value chain as well. So we wanted to go beyond skill to executive level hiring. And that's how we started a white collar vertical.
So you're now matching Adico and all those people.
Yes, we compete on three segments. On the staffing solution, HR solution, we compete with Adico, Quest, and Teamlease. In security with SIS, G4S, and Securitas. In facility management with IPCs like JLL, CBRE, and also with individual vertical players like Tenon, UDS. So we compete on all these three segments. And the most interesting diversification which has happened for us in the last 2 years is we wanted to get into a tech space in business support. And we looked at AI in video surveillance as a growing opportunity where we could bring value to a system in terms of operational efficiency, workplace safety and security being enhanced, and cost optimization in hiring manpower as well. And that is the latest venture through a solution called IntelliSense. We forayed into that segment as well.
See, one of the major challenges industry has faced is compliances. I think now it is more or less still in industrial sector and in commercial sector, it is more or less now regulated. I assume so, but still people find a way to manipulate that. So how do you find, is this a challenge, or it's how do you plan to overcome? Because there are a lot of local players who still manage to overcome that compliances. How do you manage it?
There are pros and cons. The challenge is that when we are a fully compliant organization, when
I have
we compete,
seen, you won't believe, I have seen big players,
right?
not only India,
Yeah.
Somebody based out of Gulf, they would still make it per piece, so that they are in manpower, they will make it per piece, and they will ensure that whatever you do is your problem, and still they are somehow defying those compliances and managing to keep the cost. So to convince them that you're not a big player and India is very strict about compliances, it's a Herculean task. So what kind of challenge do you face in there?
It's a very tricky path to tread on, because on one hand you're competing not on a very level playing field. As you rightly said, there are organizations who are able to cut corners and give a better price. At the same time, one, there is a statutory responsibility. Second, there is a social responsibility. Third is we represent a client who's a principal employer, who has an obligation as well. So if we drop the ball, uh, our client is impacted. So that's where the balance has to come in, by building efficient cost structure, with having technology enabled focus. We are able to rationalize cost significantly compared to some of our competitors. At the same time, we keep compliance as a key parameter for us, because that's in the long run, to make a sustainable business, we have to follow the laws of the land.
See, especially in security business, the norm is that it's 8 hours job, but normally all security guard work for 12 hours. And there they again do, as per only 4 days you can do overtime or something like that. But the cost is built without overtime and 12 hours is built. And sometimes people even don't pay that. Uh, in fact, I have been interacting with some, you know, large number of people employed even in residence societies, RWS. They don't follow any norms, and there is no compliance, I think. So how do you overcome these challenges?
So, right, the organized sector in this business is only 10%. Only 10% is organized sector. 90% is an unorganized sector, and that's enforcement in India is not easy with such a big population.
Regular sector where it is standard companies, the norm is 12 hours, and there again it's getting floated. And actually, it is strictly not compliance, but still it goes on.
Yes. So in guarding services, the laws do permit overtime, as long as you rightly said, it is within the 48 hours of time. So that is where we'll need to build in relievers to give weekly off to employees. So internally, our mandate is that at least every 6 days, seventh day becomes an off for an employee. And we also ensure that the other leave, annual leave, and festival and national holidays, typically security works on those days. We ensure that either a double wages is paid on for those days, or we give them off on those days. But as you said, sir, there is a challenge that the whole market is not complying with this. But the good news is that over the last 1 decade, we are seeing an increasing level of compliance, and organizations also evolving to meet compliances. And those organizations which was already compliant are now going one level above to governance. That is, no, it's not enough if we pay minimum wages. We need to pay fair wages. There are also certain clients who do that, and we take great pleasure and pride working with clients who go above and beyond compliance in terms of governance, because yeah,
That it should be fair wages and they should be taken care of. They now what is happening is all the warehousers are coming in the outskirt. So and we have a typical season of seasons, so huge demand, then dull, then huge demand, then dull. And then they come in and then they have to stay somewhere outside. So those facilities have to be provided, which they would not like to pay. They expect that service provider will. There's no problem providing, but there is a cost involved to it, which has to be taken care of. That's how the fair wages will come. But these are challenges which are really in this industry, and I'm sure these are getting improved day by day. And all these big companies and e-commerce companies have, while put the pressure on for deliveries and improvement, but they have also been helpful in getting compliances. So I'm sure it's good day ahead for you, and more and more your industry is going to get into regularized sector than unauthorized, unregularized sector. So I think it's a much better days are ahead of for you.
definitely the recent new wage code implementation, which happened from November 2025, is another big leap in that direction.
It's a very interesting thing. Last week we had a huge problem in UP because Haryana increased by 35%, and they wanted increase, which is fair enough asking for them. But then it is going to what happened. They did once the same thing happened in Delhi. They increased the wages by 40%, and believe me, all the industries, garment industries in Oakland, and all that, they all shifted to Gurgaon and Noida. So it's a very tricky balance to really.
The disparity I think that's where the central government is now come up with the national floor wages. We are waiting for that to be published because of this disparity. You rightly pointed out, Delhi is in the middle with Gurgaon and Noida on either side. Delhi's wages are about 30% higher than the other states, which makes it difficult to retain people in Gurgaon or Noida. And for an entrepreneur, it becomes more expensive to have a facility in Delhi. But now this floor wages, national floor wages, taking into consideration cost of living and the other related developments, the government intends to announce this for all states. And as an employer or as a contractor, we're expected to follow either the national floor wages or the state wages, whichever is higher. This, I think, will bring about certain amount of parity uh, between employees drawing wages from one state and another state. There won't be a huge difference. This will go a long way. Once it's published, we are looking forward to it.
Great. It was nice interacting with you. It's very challenging. I'm really glad that such a young team is building up such a big company. As sure we will interact more in due course, and a lot of it's a man management role. So younger and experienced, you need a combination of both kind of people.
So
It's a
true.
very interesting
So
thing.
true.
All the best, and I'm sure we'll interact more in future events also, in other events also. And this is the third edition. We'll meet again, and all the best.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be part of this podcast, as well as to be part of Logistics Shakti. It's our first experience and it's very exciting. Looking forward to making the most out of this.
Thank you very much. Have
Thank
a
you,
great
sir.
day.
Thank
Yeah.
you.